And at the age of 21, I bought my first property. My parents were from the Windrush generation.
Oh, wow.
We lived in the biggest house on the road, and it felt like we lacked nothing. At 16, I met the father of my children. Every time I got pregnant, he saw that as a vulnerability, and so he was verbally abusive, physically abusive. So many people are walking around or going into so many relationships with financial trauma. When I separated from my children's father, I was searching.
Yeah.
I said, this cannot be my life. For a decade, I had an empty purse.
Talk to me about that.
What do I mean? Because I used to have to shop in about 3 to 4 supermarkets every week just to make sure I got all that we needed.
Yeah.
And so we would go to one supermarket, and then I'd see something like 5 pence or 10 pence cheaper. I'd say, oh, well, let's go back. And they would say, oh, no, mummy, we can't. Do you know what I mean? And I would say, oh, no, we need to go back. I didn't want to tell them. They know now because I've done a few podcasts. It's because I knew if I went back, I'd be able to afford everything. So I never went without. God has been so faithful.
Welcome back to the Come See podcast with me, Damio Keke. I'm your host, and it's such a pleasure to have you again. Thank you so much for all the love that you show with just watching, listening, all the love that you show the Come See podcast. By sharing the episodes, leaving a comment, liking, all of those things go a long way in making the podcast more visible. So I'm just going to encourage you right now, if you haven't already, do subscribe to the Come See podcast. After doing that, you can hit the like button. And please, please, please leave a comment, because the more comments you leave, the more engaged others will be in this episode. So let me start off by doing my usual introduction. So today's guest was once a single mother having to keep up with her mortgage payments. But today she has a 7-figure property portfolio. She's a seasoned personal money management consultant and a qualified psychotherapist with over 20 years in the finance sector. And she believes true financial transformation starts with a godly perspective and the right financial mindset. Welcome to the Come See podcast, Norma Cassius.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh,
I'm
you're
really
welcome.
looking forward to finance is an area that, let me just say, I need additional grace from the Lord. So anytime someone comes in to talk about finance, I'm like a student, properly a student. So I'm really looking forward to you educating us and hopefully, liberating us from maybe some unhelpful mindsets. Of course, according to the word of God. So thank you so much for joining
You're welcome.
joining us. How are you feeling? You okay?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. It's a hot day. I've
Yes.
got a hot blouse on, but I'm hot and ready to go.
Fantastic. Brilliant, brilliant. So I think the first thing that I'd love to know is just a bit about your personal journey.
Sure.
And your childhood
Yeah.
and the early years. Yeah.
So, my parents were from the Windrush
Oh,
generation.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like I'm the first generation of the Windrush people,
Children,
children, yeah.
yeah.
And my dad back in Jamaica, he had like 2 houses and a dry cleaners. This is in the 50s.
Wow.
Yeah. And then when he came over in the early 50s, he bought the largest property on the road. So
Wow.
back then, my dad was on point with, like entrepreneurship.
Mm.
And he wanted the best of everything, my dad. My mum, on the other hand, she was very, very resourceful. So there were 6 siblings, 6 of us.
Wow. Okay.
And my dad was very, very frugal with his money. He wanted the best of everything, but I'm sure he must have gave my mum the same housekeeping for over a decade, regardless of the cost of living. Do you know what I mean? She had to make it work.
Wow.
So my dad was very frugal but diligent with his money, and my mum was very resourceful but also diligent with what she had. She really made it work. And so, for example, my dad was very stylish. I guess that's probably where I get it from.
Yes.
He was in like his 3-piece suits with his overcoat over his shoulders and his leather brogues and everything.
Wow.
And he had like Indian kind, they call it coolie hair.
Yeah.
So he thought he was Mr. Slick,
Yes,
like
he
Donatello.
probably was.
Yes, definitely. Do you know? And that was my dad. And I mean, I remember at meal times, he would want his dinner on different plates. So there would be meat on one plate, rice on one plate, and hard
Mm-mm.
food on another plate. That's how he wanted his dinner served.
Wow.
Exactly. And we know back then, even now, hard food like yam and all of that is more expensive than
Yeah.
just the produce in the country. But my mum had to make it work,
Wow.
and she did. And you know it's like he wanted the best of everything regardless of what it cost.
Yeah.
And my mum, as I said, she really did make it work. But looking back now, it had to be a skill,
Yeah.
because that was no easy
It would have been a
feat.
challenge. Yeah.
Absolutely. She used to make our clothes by hand, even down to our
Wow.
underwear. Do you know what I mean? She really did make it work. And it felt like we lacked nothing. And it felt like we had everything and lacked nothing. And as I said, that couldn't have been easy. We lived in a the biggest house on the road. There was no hot water heating. What you talking about? There was no heat. We
Mm.
grew up with paraffin heaters. I know. Are
Mm.
you
Yeah.
familiar with that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
back in the day when I was in primary school, I remember having to go and get 2 gallons of paraffin. Can you imagine?
Wow.
Right now that would be called child abuse, right? Because
Child labor.
absolutely, a gallon of petrol, gallons of paraffin
It
was
needs
quite
some.
heavy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But having to go and get that's how we warmed up our house.
Yeah.
And we had to. I remember my mum having to wash wash our clothes, wash
Hand wash.
boil the
Yeah.
water,
Yeah.
boil pots do you know what I mean? To wash our clothes and
Yeah.
then rinse in the cold. And I remember I used to go with her to the garden to pick up the clothes in the winter. They was frozen.
Oh, wow.
So it was really tough. But as I said, our parents are quite resourceful. We've come from being a country where we've had to be resourceful. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? To make it work. I mean, the only time we may have run out of orange juice is when my mum said you have to have sugar and water. I don't know if you've heard of that beverage.
No.
So it's just water, we put sugar in it, just something to make it
Wow.
sweet. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So when I say be resourceful, she made every penny count. So I guess I took my money management practices, or the foundation of it, from my parent. I gleaned from both of them in ways that I thought would really benefit me. So that was my humble beginnings. I never had any toys. Do you know what I mean? But I
Mm.
still felt contented. I felt at
Mm.
peace, and that goes back to my home environment. My mum made that environment safe, and there was love there. They never said, I don't remember my mum ever saying that she loved me, but I
Yeah.
knew that.
Yeah.
I felt that. I
Yeah.
understood that. So that's what my home environment, full of love, full of laughter. My mum was a character. She really had even though she was going through so much with my dad, he was quite domineering.
Mm.
She would, her personality just worked it through. She made it through. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so that was my childhood. Then at 16, I met the father of my children.
Okay.
And I was with him for like 14 and a half years.
Wow.
I
Okay.
had 3 children with him. And so just
16.
16, yeah.
Was it like a straightaway relationship, or was it you just became aware of each other at that age?
We used to go out raving.
Okay.
I don't know if they use that word still
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And I liked him, and then it just worked out that we got to get together.
Yeah.
And so at 16, I thought it was the love of my life, like you do. What do you know at 16,
Yeah.
right? He dressed lovely, and I liked nice clothes, so I thought I was like,
Yeah.
posh and Beck kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Did your parents approve?
They didn't really like him because back then he was a street guy, and they used to
All
call him
right.
New Orleans Teeth. So yeah, that was when I was working and everything. But
Yeah.
my dad going back to like finances, that my dad always used to say, Nama, never ever rent a property. Because if you rent a property for 25 years and you don't pay your rent for 1 week, they will chuck you out.
Yeah.
So that sowed a seed within me. And at the age of 21, I bought my first property.
Wow.
So it's gone on from there. So in that relationship, it was a domestic violence relationship. It was quite very insecure. And I guess the strength and the tenacity and the persistence in me, that was a threat to him and a problem to him. So yeah, financial abuse, I really experienced it. What do I mean by
Yeah.
that?
Can you go into some detail?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I was working in the bank at that time. I had my first child at 24, had my
Okay.
property at 21, I had it all decorated and everything.
Wow.
So yeah, I tried to do it the right
The
way.
right, yeah,
Apart
yeah,
from, the marriage wasn't there. That I wasn't a
yeah.
Christian at that point. We
Okay.
grew up in church, but I wasn't a Christian at
Yeah,
that point.
yeah,
And so yes, I had my property. I had my first child at 24,
yeah,
and every time I got pregnant, he saw that as a vulnerability, and so he was verbally abusive, physically abusive, and then when the children came along, so I had 3 children, within like 5 years.
yeah.
I had two
Wow.
children in 1 year. So I had
What?
at
Huh?
24 I had my son, and then at 27, I had my daughter. So that 3 years later, I thought, lovely. They call it a gentleman's family, one of each.
Mm.
6 weeks later, I was pregnant again. Yes, exactly. I was like
Hmm?
walking around in a daze for like, and she came 6 weeks early.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had my second daughter.
Same year, you
Yes,
gave birth
I had my
twice.
second daughter in the January, and because my third daughter came 6 weeks early, she was born in the November. So they're
Wow.
both born in
That's
1990.
crazy.
Absolutely.
They're like near enough twins.
Absolutely, they call them Irish twins, I think. So, I survived, right? But throughout that time, he saw that I was weak. Obviously, I'm vulnerable, and I suffered from high blood pressure in pregnancy. So
Okay.
I was pregnant at 22. I lost my first child. I had
Oh,
preeclampsia.
wow.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah,
It's when your blood pressure goes high and that whatever.
yeah, yeah.
So I've been trying to manage my blood pressure for like over 40 years.
Mm.
And so he saw that vulnerability and he took advantage of me. So when it came to, giving back then, we used to get like money weekly, we used to get paid weekly more so. And and that used to be on a Friday. Every Wednesday, I used to have palpitations. I was really anxious. I was stressed because I knew come Friday there was going to be an altercation of some sort,
Yeah.
whether it's verbal or and he loved it. And so, I say, can I have the money for the housekeeping for the children? He hasn't got it, or it was always an argument, and
Mm.
sometimes that would turn into a physical
Fight, yeah.
altercation
Yeah.
because he knew obviously I needed the money, and this is for your children,
Yeah.
and so I was in that for like that situation for like over 6 years,
Mm.
going for every week. I was going through the stress level. My blood pressure obviously was through the roof. It was just and so that's when my passion of money and mental health, because my mental health, the anxiety that such high levels of anxiety, I didn't know what was gonna come, whether it's gonna be a fight
Yeah.
or just an argument, just to get the money for the most important things for me at that point was money, was nappies and soap powder.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
he used that to his advantage. And it got to a point where I had to my mum said, Nama, are you going to let that man send you to Good Maids, which was the mental institution, not
Mm.
far from us. And I had to make a decision to say, I can't live like this.
Yeah.
I'm worth more than this. This cannot be my life. And I thought, if my mum divorced my dad after about 50 something years. I said, if my mum can do that after 50 years, I can do this with having 6 children. I can do that with 3. So that's a Planet Escape. That's a book in itself.
Wow.
Planet Escape to, get the locks changed when he went out one day to Birmingham and all the
Because
rest.
it was your house,
It
wasn't
was
it?
mine, yeah. After, because when I was buying that house, I said to him, all in love at 21.
Mm.
I'm buying this property, do you want to put your name on it? And he went and spoke to his brothers and he came back and said, Minna, I put mine here, me no house with no woman. And I was so heartbroken because I'm thinking building a family.
Together,
Well,
yeah.
that was the best thing he could have said to me. I think
It
that
was a
was the
blessing in
best, yeah,
disguise
absolutely.
because
That was the best thing he ever said to me. Because later on down the line, I think he realized what he had done. And now he was saying, this is my house too. I could have never have got away from him. In
yeah.
fact, the stress and the anxiety that I was in, that toxic relationship, and how I felt physically, I would have just left the property. I would have
Yeah.
left him in the property
Yeah.
and just went homeless with my 3 children
Yeah.
because it wasn't worth it. My life, my mental health, my sanity was not worth it.
Yeah.
And so says so done. I was able to get an injunction, I had to go to court and everything. But
Wow.
when I started that ball rolling, I wasn't going back. And so that was that. And so
How did your children feel about, the fact that you made the decision to leave? Did they understand that, this was a kind of life or death type situation?
I think for them, because I saw the arguments. I remember one time that I was asking him for the shopping money, and he didn't want to give it to me, and it turned into an argument, and then it turned into a fight. I remember my son jumping on his leg, my daughter jumping on it. I mean, all those
Wow.
memories. It's just even now, it's a bit of a trigger. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because why would I? These are your children. What are you doing?
Yeah.
We
It's
need food.
traumatic. Yeah.
Absolutely. It was so, and so many people are walking around or going into so many relationships with financial trauma,
Mm.
unbeknown to them,
Yeah.
because they've not had the work done. They've not had any therapeutic intervention to
Mm.
address it.
As believers, knowing our God given identity is crucial to the quality of life we live. But sometimes life can get so busy that we start to lose clarity on who we are, our God given purpose, and drift from God. And that's why I need to tell you about Daughters of Destiny's annual women's conference and retreat, taking place in Loughborough from the 22nd to the 24th of August. Stop, reset, and be renewed in His presence. Encounter God through powerful teaching, prayer, practical workshops, and worship, with this year's theme, Created for His Pleasure. Accommodation is available, as well as day tickets for the conference. Access hotel facilities like the sauna and the pool, and children are welcome, and under fives go free. Plus, you can get an exclusive discount when you use our special code COMESEE10. Find out more at dodintl.org.uk. That's dodintl.org.uk. So Norma, tell me, try just define, give me your definition of what financial trauma is specifically.
Sure. So I run a financial boot camp, and there was one guy in the boot camp, and because I go through all their finances and talk about the psychology of money and all of that. And at one point, I could see that he was really getting emotional. So I
Mm.
called him to one side and asked him what was going on. And so he didn't want to open up, but obviously I used my therapeutic intervention. So that's so powerful, the combination of money and mental health, because when you see a financial advisor, they're just focused on your finance. They don't, and why should they explore how your mindset, and how it affects your emotions,
Yeah.
and helping you, and how you make your informed decisions. But it's
Mm.
all related, right? Anyway, he said that when he was growing up, that his mum used to lock the kitchen door after their evening meal.
Mm.
Now, I don't know what happened in the morning, but he said so he used to go to school hungry, him and his siblings. And so as a result of that, he was so angry when he was telling me, and he's fighting back the tears because he was so angry with his mum for doing that. And so
Mm.
I said to him, have you had a conversation to ask your mum why she did what she did? I'm not justifying it, and I'm not judging her, but just for you to get someone, no, I'm not going to speak to her. She's, it was wicked what she done. She's a mother. She should have known better, and all of this. Anyway, it so happened that I said, let's start having some sessions together, some therapeutic, because it's going to
Mm.
take more than just this boot camp
Yeah.
to, work through it. Anyway, I got him to a place where he was able to go and have that conversation with his mum, which he did. And then she shared that that's what her mum did to her, and her,
So it was
a
generational.
generational. And she did that because she wanted to make sure at least they had one
Wow.
substantial meal for the day. So her thinking that she was doing something good, projected trauma onto it, unbeknown, because it wasn't intentional. She
Yeah.
didn't do it intentionally. She did it at the best. That was her best way to survive and make
Yeah.
sure her children wasn't going without a meal. But as a result of that, he now, when he, in his adult age, when he got his money, he was making his own money. Now he could buy his food as and when he wanted to, and he was just so frivolous with his money. And so he's in a
Mm.
relationship now, and that's causing problems because his girlfriend is trying to help them work towards building a future, but he's spending his money like water, so that can't happen.
Mm.
So they're having all this contention because of his financial trauma. And so I
Wow.
said to him, now your mum has explained to you why she did it. How does that make you feel? And he was still a bit angry, but he said, I do understand now. Because he said his mum was almost in tears telling him the
Wow.
story. And so now you have that knowledge, because you didn't have that knowledge. You're not in that situation anymore. Your mum's explained this to you. You have the autonomy to do what you want to do with your money. You're spending it in a way that's not benefiting you or your partner. What changes do you think you can do now? I said the first thing that you should really do is go and share this with your girlfriend, because he
Yes.
was saying that she was resenting him and they was on the verge of nearly breaking up
Mm.
because of all of, she wants to go forward and they can't with him, spending money the way he is. He had that conversation and she almost cried, broke down. In fact, he said she did cry because she just felt sorry for him to have to experience that. But can you see how
Yeah.
financial trauma from a very young age,
Yeah.
if it's not addressed, it just plays out in your adult
Wow.
life? Some people go to their grave with it.
Yeah. 100%. Because even when you mentioned financial trauma, my brain was just like, wait, wait, what is that? Like,
Mm,
what do you mean? You mean like trauma and then finances? No, like trauma that is to
related to
do
it.
related
Yeah.
specifically with, you know, our financial history, the
Yes.
experiences that we grew up with, generational So
Absolutely.
then I just think to myself, as a Black woman,
Hmm.
like thinking about generations of, struggle and
Yeah.
hardship, how much does that inform the way that we behave today? I think I saw somebody was talking about on another podcast talking about finances, and they were talking about how money doesn't stay within Black communities for very
Yeah.
long before it's
Mm,
passed into another
yeah.
community. And I wonder if even that is some level of generational financial trauma.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
you
like we
know,
can't keep the money. We can't keep. I'll give you another quick example of financial trauma. He is actually a financial advisor and he's Ghanaian. And he said in Ghanaian households, I suppose in a lot of households, there's a hierarchy. So
mhm.
he said when the food was dished out, like the chicken and that, the eldest will get the best part and all the rest of it. And he would end up with like the chicken back or
Scraps.
absolutely. And as a result, he became very fruit. This is the financial advisor,
Mm.
frugal with his money. And it was not only till we was having this conversation, I was having this conversation, it's like this light, there's no connection. People don't
Yeah.
have because it's not spoken about.
No.
And
No.
culturally, we don't speak about money. I couldn't go to my parents and say, Mummy, can you tell me about your account? It was like, it's big people's business. Do you know what I mean?
Honestly.
Definitely. Whereas other cultures may be more open and
Yeah.
liberal. And so they'll bring their children. The Jewish people, they talk about money all the time with their young ones.
Yeah.
And so they're taught from a very young age how to manage. I mean, thankfully, my dad gave me that advice
Yeah.
and I took it on board and was able to make something of it. But most of us have not really got that education or that
Exactly.
knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, you were privileged in that, even though you share all the kind of different loops you had to jump through to have a bath and,
Mm,
meals and things like that, but your dad bought the biggest house on the street. So
absolutely.
you were still in a position of financial privilege in
Yes,
comparison to a lot of the people in that community who would have just been striving, struggling, just kind of pushing.
absolutely.
To have your first house at 21,
Mm,
that's a big deal,
sure.
even much more then than
Yeah,
now even,
yeah.
that's a really big deal. So kudos to you, and
Thank
I'm
you.
grateful that you can now enlighten us.
Yeah,
And let's just talk very briefly. Well, let me not say briefly. Let's have a kind of diversion into your faith journey. And then we're
sure.
going to come back and combine the two
Yeah,
together and marry it with mental health as
sure.
well. So when did faith come into the picture for Norma?
I guess when I separated from my children's father, I was searching.
Yeah,
I said, this cannot be my life. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And then my sister was a Christian and she used to obviously come around and talk to me about the Lord and all the rest of it. And
Preach at you.
exactly, absolutely. Yes, for sure. And I made a decision that, okay, she kept on saying, you need to give your life to Jesus. You need to give your life to Jesus. And then I was living in Stratford at the time. And I was walking along Stratford Highway and I met this woman. She was a Jehovah Witness. And she was talking to me about becoming a Jehovah Witness. And I was just going to, but it's like the Holy Spirit said, no. Yes. Like the Holy Spirit said to me, no. And I went back home and I told my sister, she said, thank God. And then that night I gave my life to Jesus.
Wow.
So it was nearly either
It
going down
was,
that route.
yeah.
Absolutely. And from that, it was like when I gave my life to Jesus, then shortly after I got baptized, the day after I got baptized, I lost my purse on the train. And it was one adversity after the other. You know,
Mm.
it's like the devil said, no, not this one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I need her back or whatever. You know, he needs me back in the world.
Yeah.
But God has been so faithful
Amen.
through the times that were challenging financially, emotionally. I was responsible for 3 children,
Yeah.
a mortgage, and a car to run. As I said, I like nice things. I wasn't walking nowhere with three
You
with
know?
3 children. You know, I needed some kind of comfort, all on a part-time salary.
Wow.
And yeah, I was able to fly my children out every year abroad. And so I might be jumping the gun a bit, but one of the scriptures that, it's God who gives us power to get wealth.
Yeah.
Deuteronomy 8:18. There was times when I thought, God, I've not got money to pay my tithes.
Come on.
But there wasn't an option. There just wasn't an option. I know I needed to be obedient and pay my
Yeah.
tithes. And as a result, God made me never lack. I need to do a talk about the empty purse.
Mm.
Because for a decade I had an empty purse.
Talk to me about that.
What do I
Come on.
mean? Because I used to have to shop in about 3 to 4 supermarkets every week just to make sure I got all that we needed.
Yeah.
And so we would go to one supermarket and then I'd see something like 5 pence or 10 pence cheaper. And my children, I'd say, oh, well, let's go back. And they would say, oh, no, mummy, we can't. Do you know what I mean? And I would say, oh, no, we need to go back. I didn't want to tell them. They know now because I've done a few podcasts. It's because I knew if I went back, I'd be able to afford everything. So I never went without. Although my purse was empty, we never went without.
Mm.
And my life was liberated the day one of my friends told me about Lidl's. Well, my life
Oh,
changed.
I love Lidl's is not sponsoring this episode, but I love Lidl.
I'm telling you, honestly, I should be a
Not
sponsor for
sponsoring yet.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I could do all my shopping under one roof. I could shop for like £20 and come
Yeah.
out with bags of shopping. It was just, and like I like a nice life, so it's making the most out of my money. So me and my children were eating smoked salmon and cream cheese bagels for breakfast.
Nice.
That's the life we was living. Like I said, I was flying them out every year because I worked in the bank. Every year they paid us an annual bonus.
Bonus, yeah.
And that's what I used to. We was going to
Oh.
I could only afford 3-star apartments, but it was just showing them. I was culturizing them, showing them another quality of life.
Yes.
Although there was the struggle and we was going to
Yeah.
different supermarkets, I was able to show them that you work hard, you can have a quality. And there was people in the bank envious of me because I was,
Yeah.
going on holiday every
Every
year.
year.
I mean, and I've written a book called Think Like a Bank, and the rucksacks were filled to the brim. No, it wasn't with electrical toys or dollies. It was rice, biscuits, and everything. So I bought all our produce, all the things that we needed that I
For the
could, or
holiday.
non-perishable, on holiday. So when I got there, all I had to buy was meat and veg.
Yeah.
But that's me again being resourceful. So the
Wow.
spending money we had, I took them to the whole of the Caribbean, the whole of Europe. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
And now, as one of us are flying in, somebody's flying out.
Yeah.
That's the
It's
lifestyle.
been normalized.
It's been normalized, and like people, my friends used to say, Norma, I've never seen somebody go down the market and buy 3 outfits for their children with £10. But I would make it work. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's not what you have, it's what you do with what you have. Because I had friends that worked in the bank that had a full-time salary or 2 incomes from like their partners, husbands, and still couldn't fly out.
Mm. It's a mindset, isn't it?
It is a mindset and the grace of God, because the little you
Yeah.
have with God in it is much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he really sustained me, like
Come on.
Elijah at the brook. There were
Yes.
times, let me tell you, there was times, but God always sent that raven to feed
Amen.
me, whether it was a family member. My mum, she was, oh, God rest her soul, she was just my rock. And I think
Mm.
that's where I get my resilience and tenacity from.
Yeah.
So people used to look at me and admire me with how I was making it work with my 3 children. We used to look immaculate. Do you know what I mean? With the
Mm.
little money, but I know how to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you think it was about your faith and the mindset you had that enabled you to be so savvy, like so
Mm,
money savvy? Like even before you were like, I'm a financial expert, you
yeah.
know? What do you think it was about that combination?
I think, the Bible says those that work hard and diligent. It says, is
He's
it
a rewarder. Yep.
absolutely? Do you understand? And I was diligent, whether it was in my work at the bank or with my work with the children. I was
Mm.
diligent in what I was doing. And
Yeah.
in so doing, God made a way. He made the little I had look like so much and
Yeah.
spread so far. Because I could have sat there and said, woe me.
Come
And
on.
absolutely,
And people would have been like, yeah, they would have
absolutely,
joined you in it because they could
definitely.
see what you're going
They
through.
could, and they couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. Do you know what I mean? I had a BMW at the time. That's the little money making it work and living my best life. Do you know what I
Wow.
mean? And it's all in the planning.
Mm.
Whatever I did, I had to plan. Proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Mm. Poor preparation.
Proper
Proper
preparation
preparation.
prevents poor
Prevent.
performance. The
Okay.
P's. I got that from Pastor Matthew, my
All
pastor at
right.
KICC. Yeah, so if I was anything I needed to do, I had to plan it.
Mm.
I couldn't just say I'm going on holiday. I had to sit down and plan.
And be
You-
meticulous about the
Absolutely, before
details.
you build a house, you have to sit down and count the cost.
Come
I
on.
couldn't just frivolously say I'm going to go on holiday, and no, I had to sit down and diligent. When I was shopping, I had to walk around with a notepad and pen in my bag, calculating every penny
Yeah.
that I was spending.
Wow. And I love what you're saying, Norma, because I feel like in our generation, we're very aspirational, very ambitious, maybe because of how visible the different lifestyles and the
Hmm.
perks of life are, the luxuries, social media. So you will get somebody waking up and being like, I'm going to become a millionaire. I'm going to start a business. Like, I'm going to, I'm going to get a BMW. I'm going to fly my kids out to holiday every year.
Hmm.
But you see what you said about the meticulous, the planning. That's the bit that our generation's
I'm not
like,
doing.
we I even read something like that yesterday about we go even as far as Christians will even put faith behind it. Like the Lord's gonna make it happen. He said he's gonna do it.
Yeah.
But you see, when it comes to the execution, the planning, the diligence, the meticulous, and then it's like, Lord, but I thought you said, like, why is this thing not happening? But I admire what you lay emphasis on, which is, yes, you acknowledge that it's the grace of God that allowed you, that enabled you. You acknowledge that you had a testimony of, Elijah at the brook.
Hmm.
But similarly, there is some practical, attitudes and habits that have to be developed and put
Absolutely.
into action. So what can you share with us? I don't want you to give everything away because I want
Hmm.
people to be able to, you know, patronize you and reach out to you, because I think there's so much wealth,
Hmm.
no pun intended, in what you have to share.
Hmm.
But what are some practical tools that we can use to like improve our money management and reach those goals that we're having? What are some practical tools that you could recommend?
Sure. So my 3 tips are: keep it simple.
Okay. Okay.
K being know your numbers.
Okay.
Many people, young people, come to me and they ask me, Norma, how can I invest? And my question to them is, what's your financial situation?
Mm.
Because when they're saying to me, Norma, how can I invest? For me, it's about they want to make
Quick
money.
money,
Yeah,
yeah.
they want to make money quick. A lot of them are in debt.
Yeah.
Before you can invest, you need to sort out your finances. So
Mm.
we need to draw back. When, the first thing is, how much are you in debt? Oh, yeah. They don't know these numbers. Like I said, before you
Mm.
build a house, you need to be able to count the cost. And, people get financial anxiety and
Yeah.
stressed out about checking their bank statement.
Yeah.
The thought of having to look at it,
Yeah.
that causes, and I bring them down to that place where they can look at it without feeling the anxiety, the fear.
Mm.
Fear is one of the most powerful emotions that we have, and we know it's one of the powerful emotions that the devil uses.
Come on.
Yeah. So, first of all, you need to know exactly what you have, what you owe, and what you've got saving. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of people, they probably know what they've got, their income, but they have no idea, or they don't know the exact figures. It's in the back of their mind. You need to write it down.
Hmm.
You need to, and this is know your numbers. Because once you know your numbers, that's the starting point. Having a budget, that helps you know your numbers.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They've got so many free apps out there that can do. I
Come
mean,
on.
back in the day, I was, writing everything down with pen and
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, get a free budgeting app that you just put, you know, you get your join your bank account to it, which will
Yeah.
track your spending, show you areas that you're spending more in. It will do it all for
Yeah.
you've got no excuse.
Yeah.
So K is to know your numbers. We're
Know
keeping
your
it simple,
numbers.
right?
Yeah.
How do you start? Get your last month's bank statements, and that's a bank statement for
Oh, that's good. That's painful.
Yes.
Let me know.
exactly.
Oh, having to look for it, and then you're
Absolutely.
going,
Yeah.
why did I have to do that? I
Right.
have not reviewed a bank statement personally, my
Yeah.
own bank statement,
Yeah.
in years.
You need to come and see me.
Because I'm just like, I know what's there, and I don't want to see it. Like,
And it's okay. I make finances fun because it's such a
Yeah.
serious topic that
Yeah.
people can't enjoy their finances. We know millionaires that commit suicide,
Yeah.
billionaires that commit suicide. It's not about the
How
money.
much?
Right, exactly. That how much is, I have a private practice in Harley Street, and
Mm.
people are earning 7 figures. That don't impress me. It's not how much you earn, it's what you got left. Because people that earn that money, they are the suicide clients.
Mm.
They earn that money, they live that lifestyle. They're shopping weekly in Harrods and Selfridges, where we're in Tesco's and Lidl's or Marks and Spencer's. Their children go to private schools.
Yeah.
How much is that per child per term? They live in the multi-million-pound houses. They drive the top of the range cars. So they're in the same position as somebody that works in Sainsbury's, but it's just on a larger scale.
Yeah.
Do you think they could go back, say, like husband, the amount of pressure that's on men? It says that people commit suicide. 10 people commit suicide in the UK a day. 7 out of the 10 are men.
Mm.
Whereas a woman can get on the phone, talk to her mum, talk to her friend. Men are internalizing it, the ego
Yeah.
and all of that. The pressure that is on them. So how many of them do you think can go and say to their wife or their partner, this is what's happening for me financially. We're going to have to take the children out of private school. They would rather kill themselves than,
Yeah.
and the wife ain't helping. She's going to say, no, that can't happen. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So that pressure. So knowing your numbers, 'cause they don't know their numbers. They're just spending and,
Yeah.
and living so much in debt. That's number one. Keep it simple. Initiate a financial well-being plan. What do
Mm.
I mean by that? So now you know your numbers. You're in a position to start making some plans of what you would like.
Yeah.
Whether that's buying a house, buying a car, putting money away for your children. Once you've paid all your outgoings, what disposable income you've got left
Yeah.
to initiate these plans that you want to do. And so financially, you can start initiating these plans. And then emotionally, when I say how much is it going to cost you, I don't just mean financially. How much is it going to cost you emotionally, psychologically? Are you initiating unrealistic plans?
Mm.
Because if you are, that's going to take a toll on you emotionally. Let's be real. Let's be practical. Start small.
Okay.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
And then you build upon that. Do you
Come
know what I
on.
mean? Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
And then once you've initiated these plans and you've thought about it emotionally, psychologically, your beliefs and all of that, about your beliefs about managing your money, and how your beliefs affect your thought processes, and then your thought processes influence how you behave with your money.
Yeah.
The last step is setting those goals.
Mm.
So you set the immediate goals, the middle term goals, and the long term goals.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Keeping
Yeah.
it simple.
How do you differentiate between an immediate, middle term, and a long term goal?
Okay, so an immediate goal should be, if you are in debt, to get a financial plan of, how you're going to manage that
Yeah.
debt. That is an
Yeah.
immediate goal.
Yeah.
Immediate goal, if you're not in debt, it may be that, you want to start saving. You want to save
Yeah.
£1,000 for the year. If you've
Okay.
not saved before. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm doing a Plum. There's an account called Plum. And I say every week, so it's a 52-week challenge. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No, I haven't.
Okay,
But
so
yeah.
every week you save £1 more than you did the last week.
Oh, I think I've
Yeah.
seen it on
Monzo
socials.
do a 1p challenge.
Yeah.
So wherever your pocket is,
Yeah.
whether it's a 1p challenge
I
or
like that.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
starting. That's a short-term goal, and it's
Yeah.
an immediate goal, right?
Yeah.
You've got
Yeah.
to start somewhere.
Come on. Yeah. I find that as Christians, we seem to be learning about finances after the world. Does that make sense? So I feel like people in the world kind of
got
figure
it.
it out a lot a lot quicker than us. What are we doing wrong? Like, what are we not? And this is probably a generalization. I know everyone isn't like that.
Yeah.
But I just feel like there's too much of a pattern that I
Yeah.
see happening constantly.
Sure. I think as Christians, it's not really been addressed as it should be. Do you know what I mean? I guess the different cultures and all the rest of it, they're dealing with their finances, they're managing it, they're building wealth, they're building generational wealth. We've not really been taught that. We've not had those conversations
Yeah.
because culturally, for us, obviously, there's Christians are of all different
Different
cultures and
cultures, yeah.
it's diverse. I guess I'm speaking from a cultural perspective where we've not had that exposure.
Yeah.
And
Like
so
African Caribbeans
absolutely, we've
yeah.
not had that kind of exposure. Now the younger generation, I've got 3 millennials now. I'm a
Yeah.
grandmother now. Do you know what I
Wow.
mean? I'm in my 60s now. So I wanna,
You
share.
look good, Norma.
Thank you. Is either use our youth like the eagle, right?
Yeah.
That's what he
Amen.
says.
Amen.
And so
You
I'm a
look
living
good.
testimony. I thank
Yeah.
God that I want to shout it from the rooftops. And as I said, I don't want to just want to talk about money. I want to talk about how your mental well-being is impacts your finances.
Yeah.
And so now, churches are speaking about it more.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? They've realized that it's something that we need to address.
Yeah.
And so they are speaking about it more. We are way behind, but at least we're
catching up.
we're catching
You
up,
know?
and we
Yeah.
can catch it up at an exponential speed rate. Do
Exactly.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's not how you start in life. It's Paul talked about winning
Finish
the
well.
race,
Yeah.
finishing well. It's
Yeah.
not how you
Finish
start in life.
strong.
It's at you finish.
Yeah.
And I'm here to empower, educate, and
Amen.
equip as many people as I can get my hands on
Amen.
to be
Amen.
financially empowered.
Amen.
So they are building generational wealth.
Yeah, that's a buzzword. This is my final question to you
Yeah.
because I could keep going. That's a buzzword that I find, especially in African and Caribbean communities. I don't often hear a lot of non-African Caribbean communities
Yeah.
calling it generational wealth,
Yeah.
but it's now a buzzword. Maybe because we're just realized the light
Yeah,
is just coming on
absolutely.
about it. This is a big question that I know you won't be able to answer in this short time, but how would you advise to the millennial generation and maybe our parents' generation as well? How do we start to think about generational wealth? How do we start that process?
Sure.
Where our parents' generation have not really been they've just been surviving.
Absolutely.
They haven't been able to necessarily hand down anything that is significant, apart from the fact that for some of them they brought us abroad, or
Yeah.
they gave us certain opportunities. But how do we begin to start that process of building that generational wealth now?
Sure. I'll just use myself as an example. So now I've got properties.
Yeah.
So these properties, and one of my properties is for my grandchildren.
Okay.
And so, yeah. And so that's my mindset. And this is what I'm teaching my children.
Yeah.
To put everything we have in trust. I should be, when I pass away, I should have nothing. I should pass away penniless because everything
Everything's
should be in trust. So the government is not getting a penny of my money. No, seriously, this
Yeah.
is very serious.
Yeah.
We can't,
Yeah,
because
this is like writing wills and stuff, isn't
absolutely
it?
writing wills and getting that education. The Bible says people perish for a lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
So I'm raising that awareness. I done an event with Emmanuel Izuku.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was about generational wealth.
Yeah.
Building wealth. How do we do that? And it's about, our parents came with nothing. so they didn't have anything to give. They was able to
Yeah.
buy property, but for a lot of them, for some reason, the properties were lost. And
Yeah.
now in all the boroughs, we had all the houses, and those houses are, it's all been regentrified. It's gone to other people.
Yeah.
So a lot of us haven't got that those properties, but we have to start where we are.
Yeah.
So whatever you have, you keep it in your family. You get your life insurance. Do you know what I mean? Your properties in trust. All of this. Make sure you've got your wills and
Come
whatever
on.
finances, your savings. You've got your building on that.
Everything that you are mentioning are literally red flags, because earlier I asked about why are Christians behind, and I think this is some of it. There's a lot of paranoia and a lot of superstition around. I don't want to write a will
Yeah,
because am I welcome in death or whatever, or life insurance. Why would I need that? The Lord's
exactly.
protecting me.
Yeah.
But it's poor stewardship, then, isn't it?
Because the Bible says that we are stewards of our money, and
Yeah.
that is such poor stewardship to not put those things in place.
Yeah.
It really is. You're being disobedient
Come
to the
on.
word of God.
Ooh, Norma's not playing. Thank you so much, because what you're it's checking me,
Okay.
it's checking me, because we have to come out of, we can't, there's that saying that if you can't keep doing the same thing and expecting
Yeah,
a different result, that's insanity.
sure.
And I feel like these attitudes have been passed on from generation. I'm sure if I ask my siblings or my, extended family members, how many of you we're millennials?
Yeah.
How many of you, majority of my,
Mm.
cousins and relatives, how many of you have life insurance? They're gonna look at me crazy, like,
Yeah.
what? I'm in my 30s.
Yeah.
What do I need that for?
This is the best
You
time to
know?
get it as young as possible because it's as
Crazy.
cheap as possible.
Yeah.
The later you leave it,
Mm.
it's just crazy.
Now we're gonna. Do you know what? How can people get access to your resources? How can people um get in touch with you? We're gonna talk because we need help.
Sure. So through my website, normacassius.com.
Okay.
On Instagram, that's my social that I use most. It's think.like.a.bank.
Okay.
Yeah.
Think.like.a.bank.
.a.bank. Start following me for tips and tricks. And
Yeah.
I mean,
Think like a bank.
you need to have this education.
100%.
And as I said, I work with you financially and psychologically
Yeah.
to make sure that you're in a good space with your
Come on.
money and because people don't have financial peace. We never talked about that, but this
Ooh.
is we could go on all night, so we best stop. But
No.
financial peace,
Yes.
this is what
Can
ultimately.
you just break that, what that looks like, so that people, at least we whet their appetite so they start to make the right decisions?
Sure.
What does financial peace look like?
Okay. I'll use myself again. I was in a position as a single mum where I had almost nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't have financial peace, obviously,
Come
because
on.
of stress, anxiety.
Yeah.
Sometimes I felt depressed. Do you know what I mean? Now I'm in a position where I do have money, but if it's not managed well, I'm still going to be anxious about I haven't got enough, or I'm stressed about losing it. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So rich people, why do they have financial anxiety? Why do they, always worrying about their money or losing it? They don't understand their numbers.
Yeah.
If you don't understand what you've got coming in and where it's going, there's so much financial leakage taking place, you will never have financial peace.
Mm.
You want to be in control of your money as opposed to your money controlling your emotions and
Come on.
all of that. When you are in control of your money and you understand your money, you understand what you have, where it's going, and what you owe, then you can begin to start developing financial peace.
Mm. Norma, thank you so much. We didn't have nearly enough time, but thank you for, imparting some of the wisdom and your life experiences. Such an inspirational woman, because you're not just saying it, you're living it. I can see it. She got the red bottoms. You guys can't see it from here, but she got the red bottoms, and she looks the part.
Oh, thank you.
And most importantly, you ascribe, your success to the grace of God,
Absolutely, 100%.
and the attitudes that he has taught you,
Hmm.
and that your father has passed down and your
Yeah.
mother is, demonstrated. And I want our generation to be able to pass it on to our kids.
Mm.
I don't want us to pass on the trauma, the financial trauma, and for that cycle to continue
Yeah.
to repeat, because we're not in that place anymore.
No.
There are opportunities now. Why
Mm.
should we still have the same cycles repeating themselves?
Exactly. Could I just quickly say one thing?
Yes.
That there's a app called Go Henry. Have you heard of that app?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So they did some research and reported that 71% of young people worry about money.
Come on. Yeah.
21% of that 71% are children aged 11 and under, suffering or experiencing stress, anxiety, and depression. So, for
Wow.
parents, that's another session within itself.
Come on.
They're in that environment. Children are like sponges, they're absorbing everything. So, you're not doing it intentionally, but unconsciously, whatever you're giving out, whether you're complaining about money or your financial situation, which is something that is a worry to us all, your children are projecting it and absorbing that, and then they're taking on those mental health. Um, they're experiencing these mental health issues. I've
Mm,
worked in a school with children for over 7 years, and they have the same presenting issues as adults. There's no difference anymore.
yeah. Wow. So that childhood innocence of,
Yeah,
I just, I want this, and the way children should be,
yeah.
is like, nah, we can't.
They're taking on all of this, the weight of it, and it's
Wow.
impacting their mental. Then, when they grow up, they've got these mental health issues, and taking that trauma again, as we
And
just,
replicating it.
yeah,
Yeah, replicating the cycle. Thank you so much, Norma.
you're
God
welcome.
bless you. Think like a bank.
Yeah,
On socials, it will come up on the screen, and if you're listening, go and check the description box. It will be there. NormaCassius.com
that's
if you
correct.
want to access Norma's resources, and definitely get in touch with her. So that you guys can, I'm sure you have like clients, you
Yeah,
like work one to
of
one.
course, one-to-ones in
Absolutely.
groups.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thanks for
you're
coming in.
welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for listening. What are some of the gems that Norma's shared that you're going to try and implement? I'm not going to start naming them because I've got a few of my own, right? For starters, the KIS that she mentioned, we got to implement that. Where Norma talked about financial peace, I got to go into prayer about that, because I want that. That sounds
Yes.
good to me, right? But then, of course, there's work to be done behind it. So definitely get in touch with Norma. And yes, leave a comment. Let me know which of those, tips you're going to start implementing straight away. And what resonated with you about Norma's amazing story. And until next time, God bless you.